Good morning and welcome to this webinar on protecting your intellectual property in India. My name is Steve Toogood and I'm Director of Regions here at UK India Business Council and will be your moderator for this morning's webinar. Well, India is a large and fast-growing emerging market which poses unique challenges for UK companies, and in particular protecting your intellectual property requires careful planning and robust internal procedures. In the next 30 minutes or so, this Access India advice session will provide you with practical advice for your business on what steps you need to take to register and protect your intellectual property in India. But before we begin, I would like to familiarize you with the toolbox on the right-hand side of your screens. Just to let you know, we will have everyone on mute during the course of the webinar to keep any background noise to a minimum. But if you have a question, please drop it into the little bracket on the toolbox to your right in the Please Type Your Question Here section. That will send your question to me and I will endeavour to take it up during our Q&A session at the end. But for now, to make sure you can all hear me clearly, could I please ask that you all use the Raise Your Hand button on the toolbar. If you could click the Raise Your Hand button. Okay, thank you very much. So to our speaker. I'm pleased that today we have with us Dr. Vijay Iyer. He is a Senior Intellectual Property Advisor based in the British Deputy High Commission in Mumbai. Previously, he was a Senior Science and Innovation Advisor with the UK Science and Innovation Network and led on efforts to foster UK-India research partnerships. Vijay has nearly 6 years professional experience in technology transfer and innovation management. He is also a registered patent agent in India. So, Vijay, over to you for the presentation.
Great, thank you, Steve. And hello to everyone on the line. Like Steve said, I'm Vijay Iyer. I'm the Senior IP Advisor, and I'm based in Mumbai. And I'm going to give you a brief overview of the intellectual property framework in India and how you could go about protecting your IP in India. Moving on to the next slide. So just a quick brief on my role. So I'm the IP attaché. I have 3 main objectives. One is to engage with policymakers, both state and national level, and provide support to UK business operating in India or intending to operate in India in the future, and implement intellectual property projects through third parties, essentially to raise the overall awareness of intellectual property issues with the Indian stakeholders. So I've just listed a couple of projects that we did with FICCI and CII. These are trade associations, well-known trade associations in India. Again, those projects were intended to increase the level of IP awareness in the country. These are some of the projects that we did in the last fiscal, IP fact sheets. These have not been launched yet, but we're hoping for a launch sometime this month. So essentially, there will be about 4 fact sheets, one each on patent, design, trademark, and copyright. So these will give, these are brief versions of the things that a UK company will need to take care of, to protect that particular IP in India. So I'm hoping that the fact sheets will be really helpful, to companies that are planning to enter India. The second one is online now. It was we did this project with CII to map the intellectual property landscape of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is the southernmost state in India, and you can view the report online. I believe the presentation will be shared with all the attendees, and so you can access the report. And the final one was the Copyright Enforcement Toolkit, which was promoted heavily at the state and national level judicial academies in India, and also with the police academy, because after all, it's the police that's on the ground, trying to prevent copyright infringement. So we did a lot of promotion work with the police through our partner FICCI. In India, so the way intellectual property is structured, patent, trademark, design, and geographical indication fall within the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, while copyright is with the Ministry of Human Resource Development. As you all know, patent is valid for 20 years from the date of filing, and India being a signatory to the PCT, it becomes easier if you're filed in the UK and, after the PCT, if you want to come to India in the national phase, it just becomes simpler and easier. Patent in India is governed by the Patents Act, and if the Patent Office rejects your claims or objects to it, you can appeal before the Intellectual Property Appellate Board, which is located in Chennai. Chennai is the capital of Tamil Nadu, the southern state that I just mentioned earlier. And if you're not happy with the Appellate Board, then you can appeal that decision with any of the high courts in the country. This is the definition of trademark as mentioned in the Trademarks Act. This was just for your quick reference. Moving on to the next slide. The headquarters of the trademark registry is in Mumbai, of course. That doesn't mean you have to file in Mumbai. You can also file in Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata. The term is 10 years and it's perpetually renewable, and the same system of appeals as in the patent. And India is a signatory to the Madrid system, which again simplifies the filing process for you as a UK company. Design, again, I took the definition from the Act, so you can see what design entails and what design covers. It's, again, governed by the Designs Act. The term is 10 years, but it can be extended for another 5 years. The design applications are only evaluated by the Kolkata office, and also the appeals from any of the decisions of the Patent Office in Kolkata go to the High Court in Kolkata. So Kolkata, just for geographical reference, it's towards the east of India. So Kolkata is the capital of the state of West Bengal. Copyright. The term, again, is similar to that in the UK. It's 60 years after the lifetime of the author, except in the case of cinematographic films and sound recordings, in which case it's 60 years after the publication. These are the different elements that are covered under copyright. Again, this is from the Act, so a quick listing of the items that are covered under copyright protection. Geographical indications, essentially, this gives credit to a product that originated in a certain geography. And so geographical indications is another way to protect intellectual property, to give it, essentially to give credit to the place of origin of that product. So what is a geographical indication? Like I said, it gives credit for the location from where the product originated. And these are some of the characteristics that you need to have if you're claiming for a geographical indication for your product. It's the registry for geographical indications is located in Chennai. Again, the term is 10 years, which is renewable, and the rules and the procedures are governed by the Act, which was codified in 1999. So these are some of the examples of geographical indications. So Darjeeling tea, I'm sure most of you might be aware, and Kanchipuram silk. So the location, the name of the place precedes the name of the product. Moving on to the next slide. So in terms of remedies that you can avail for infringement of any of these intellectual property rights, for design and patent, you only get civil remedies, and for the other intellectual property areas, you can avail civil as well as criminal remedies. Okay, so we talked about the different types of intellectual property for which you can get protection in India. And if you are planning to work with an Indian partner, then there are a couple of toolkits that you can utilize to formalize your agreements with the Indian partner. So Lambert Toolkit, again, this is online. The web address is on the slide. Essentially, these are model templates. You know, if you're looking at an academia collaboration or academia-industry collaboration, there are different types and different situations, and for each situation, a model template has been suggested. So I'd encourage you to take a look at those contracts. The UK IPO specifically commissioned a project for Indo-UK collaboration. So 4 model template agreements were developed. So again, this is online. You can download them. And these 4 model contracts essentially cover 4 situations. The first one is where an Indian academic institute retains IP but grants a license to a UK company. The second is the reverse, that a British academic organization owns the IP but wants to license it to an Indian company. And the last 2 is and the last 2 situations are where you know, the British sponsor owns the IP or the Indian sponsor owns the IP and they want to license it to the organization in the other country. Moving on to the next slide. Hello, Steve?
Yes. We're waiting for the next slide. I think we're just getting that up for you. Can you click the next one, please, Becky? Can you hear me, Vijay?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm waiting for the next slide to load.
Well, I think if you just keep talking, and we'll sort that out as we go through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I can see it. Yeah, sorry. So in terms of the steps that, you know, as a UK company that you need to take, of course, you know, before you enter India, it's advisable that you register your IP, and you can do this through any of the Indian law firms, or some of the UK law firms might have connections or partnerships with Indian law firms. So you can use those law firms to file your IP in India. Definitely, you know, do a thorough search of what's on the market, so you're aware of the prior art, you're aware of the companies, you know, that are either selling proprietary products here or are selling stuff that is not patent protected, or products that are a rip-off of technologies that were developed elsewhere. I would definitely encourage you to talk to, you know, similar companies in India through organizations such as the UK India Business Council. So the UK India Business Council has 3 offices in India, in Gurgaon, which is near Delhi, Mumbai, and in Bangalore. So I would encourage you to sort of connect with those centers. So one of the features that UKIBC has is what is called a launchpad facility. Essentially, it's an incubator kind of service that they provide to new companies entering the Indian market, new UK companies entering the Indian market. And BBG is the British Business Group. Again, it's all online, so if you just Google, you will be able to find them. British Business Group, they're in several cities in the country, and that could be a good network to dip into. I would say, you know, definitely adopt a strong IP strategy in terms of protection, in terms of having a strong application in place, whether it be a patent or a design or a trademark. And of course, if you need guidance, we are here to help. You can approach me. I'm happy to signpost you or guide you as necessary, and also, you know, where possible and where relevant, I can point you to the right law firms or government bodies. for health. And that brings me to the last slide of the presentation. My email ID and phone number are on the slide. Feel free to email me, call me if you have any questions or concerns about protecting your IP in India. And I'd like to take questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you very much, Vijay. Most helpful, and it's such a wide subject anyway. And when it comes down to it, it's the detail of each individual application that counts, and the fact that the UK government has invested in people like yourselves, well, internationally around the world, is testimony to the support that can be provided through that. So, again, if you have any IP questions, they are very well directed towards Vijay, and I have some coming through now on the line. If anybody wants to ask some questions, I say just fill in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. So I have a couple for you here already coming through. I won't go through in any particular order I'm seeing them, but there are 5 IP registration offices in India, apparently you said. Which one should the client apply to?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are 5 offices. But the way they have been structured is that each office has its own territorial jurisdiction. So if you are in a certain, so for Mumbai covers a certain number of states, and then Delhi covers, states in the north, and then Kolkata in the east covers the northeast. So you have to look at, where you are located. And now if you're a UK company, obviously you won't have an office in India. So the location of the law firm that you're using to file the patent application will be considered to determine, which office would be the best to apply. So I would encourage you to look at the jurisdiction that has been assigned to each office, and then file your application in that office.
Okay, and as a quick follow-up questions coming on that, by filling in IP in India, will it be enforced across India or just in the regions?
It will be enforced across India. So whatever you file in India is valid throughout India.
Very good. And okay, so on the same theme then, what are the approximate costs for patent and trademark registration, and some indication of time?
Great. Yeah, so they've just started e-filing as well for filing your IP, for registering your IP. So in terms of costs, the e-filing costs are lower than the physical filing costs. So I'll just give you an example. So when you are filing your first application for a patent, if you're filing through e-filing, then the cost could be around, Indian rupees is around 2,500, which would be 25 pounds, 16 to 25 pounds, and then if you're doing it physically, then it could go anywhere between 76 to 85 pounds. So the fee varies depending on whether you choose e-filing or physical filing. Same applies for trademark, and there's a listing of, with the Indian Patent Office, there are several forms, and so I think the best way to navigate those forms is to really seek help from a professional, because they'll be doing it more often. So there's a list of fees and a list of forms that's available on the patent website.
Okay, right. That's very helpful. And what about the times taken for those to get approval through the route?
Oh. So the typical time to get a patent would be, I'd say, anywhere between 4 to 5 years, 4 to 6, to be on the conservative side. But so one of the challenges for the patent office is, they don't have adequate number of examiners to review patent applications. There is a backlog. So currently, I think the time taken for a patent application to from filing to grant is about 5 years.
Right, but it's essential to get to it. You still think it's essential to get it registered there. This is one from me actually, but India signed up to the Paris Convention and PCT. But what's your recommended route? Would you go? And what's the typical way that British companies file? Do they do it locally, or do they do it internationally and then locally?
Yeah, so definitely, if you're a UK company, obviously the first application you file is the UK patent application, and then you go to the PCT. So I would definitely, encourage to go through the PCT route and then, do the national phase filings.
Okay, right. On the similar type of relation to the IP, would you agree? This is from Mr. Thomas. Would you agree that at a practical level, India does not have a great reputation internationally as a place where IP is easily protected? And do you feel that that reputation is warranted?
Steve, can you repeat that question? I'm not able to hear you clearly.
Certainly. Would you agree that at a practical level, India does not have a great reputation internationally as a place where IP is easily protected? And do you feel that that reputation is warranted?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. And so the way, of course, enforcement of IP will be, it is, and it's going to be a challenge, at least in the near future. But so it depends on the region. So, for example, in the south, for example, in a state like Tamil Nadu, the state is really serious about IP protection and IP, enforcement. The same as that is not true if you go up north, say in a state like Uttar Pradesh. I've had a couple of calls with companies that are having issues in that state. Whereas if you come to the western part of India, say Mumbai, then the police are relatively speaking, more aware about fake goods and IP infringement. There's a cyber crime cell that has been set up by the Mumbai police to track illegal websites. So it really varies across the country, but on average, I would say enforcement is not good enough.
Yeah, how do you see it changing?
So definitely with the new government, there is push towards Make in India, and there's push towards more innovation in the country. So definitely with the new guard, there will be initiatives and programs in the near future, where IP will assume significance and will be given importance. Especially, the draft IPR policy was an initiative of the new government. The policy was released in December 2014. So the government is definitely serious about IP, and with the Make in India campaign, IP will become all the more crucial for the success of the Make in India campaign. So I see that in the coming years, at least in the next 5 years, we will definitely see more proactive approach from the police in terms of intellectual property enforcement.
Okay, so Mr. Lockley has come online here. What's the best approach to dealing with trademark or copyright application objections? And so can you answer that question?
Yeah, so if you're not happy with the with the response of so if it's the design application, then if you're not happy with the Patent Office decision, then I think you can explore options of going to the Kolkata High Court. Like I said, designs are mainly handled by the Kolkata office, Kolkata Patent Office. So and the only recourse is to go to the Kolkata High Court if you're not happy, with the decision of the Patent Office. For trademarks, you can go to the Intellectual Property Appellate Board, which sits in Chennai. And again, if you're not happy with the IPAB, then you go to the Chennai High Court.
And can you give some indication as to if you do end up in court with these issues, what sort of recompense and compensation is typical for civil or criminal prosecutions?
Yeah, so the one thing I'd like to alert is that just for example, there was a recent trademark infringement case that was tried out in the Bombay High Court. It took nearly 3 years for the case to resolve. So in terms of time, it's going to be a huge investment of your time, and it does take time, at least with the Indian legal system. And in terms of damages, if it's a civil, for civil remedies, you could get injunction damages, in some cases also statutory damages. For criminal, so if it's a copyright, for example, if it's a copyright infringement, then you can ask for, imprisonment and penalty.
Okay, so And do you need an Indian lawyer to help with the filings, or kind of or
Yeah. So,
from here?
Steve, so let me just repeat your question. So, did you ask? Do you need an Indian lawyer to file your IP?
Correct.
Yes, I would highly recommend that you use an Indian law firm because they are more in touch with the procedural formalities. Because they do it more often, so they know what are the changes and what sort of documents need to go with your application. So I would definitely recommend going with with a reputed Indian law firm.
Okay, right. Just a slight change of focus here. Can you say something about the attitude towards passing off?
Can you say something about the attitude
towards passing off on designs? So, just basic, straightforward copying. What is the attitude? Is there a change to how that's being viewed?
Yeah. So I think the onus is definitely on the IP owner. So if you own the IP, then you need to approach the police, file an FIR. FIR is like the first information report. If it's something related to online infringement, then definitely approach the cybercrime cell. If you're operating out of a metro city like Mumbai or Chennai or Delhi, the police department generally have a cybercrime cell. So you can go and report that website. And just recently, one of the online retailers, was embroiled in a controversy where the vendor, when one of its authorized vendors was selling fake cartridges for printer. So there was a crackdown. There was a major crackdown on that particular vendor, and all the fake goods were seized. So I think it comes down to the IP owner and how proactive the owner is in terms of flagging the infringement to the police and then sort of following it up.
Very good. Okay, so another one here. We're just going to take a few more questions, I think. But is there a filing requirement for copyrights?
Sorry, is there filing?
Filing requirement for copyright.
So, filing requirements for copyright. So procedurally, I think if you're trying to protect a software, for example, then you need to present a CD. There are lots of requirements. I don't sort of remember all of them on the top of my head. But if you go to the Copyright Office's website, they have a listing of all the requirements. But just as an example, if you have a software module or a training module which is on a CD, then you can deposit your CD and get copyright protection for the material that's covered in that CD.
Great. And just one last one from me. What is the attitude of Indian businesses towards IP? What typically are Indian businesses doing themselves to protect their IP and trademarks?
So in the last 10 years or so, I think there's been a huge uptick in the number of filings that have been made by Indian companies. So the general awareness about the need to have IP as part of the business model, that understanding, that realization has really has expanded. It has strengthened. So lots of Indian companies are definitely waking up to the fact that if you need to survive in the market for a long time, then you need to have IP protection. So I would say, especially industries like pharma, creative sector, especially the Bollywood, lots of writers are getting their stuff copyrighted because they go and talk about their screenplay to a director, and if the director steals it, then they are more than happy to take up that case, either with the High Court or with the local writers body. So I would say copyright in the creative sector, definitely there's more awareness. Pharma industry, very much aware about IP. And of course, general manufacturing businesses and advanced engineering, where IP plays a big role. So, Indian businesses are definitely, now, more so than earlier, are aware of IP and the need to get their innovations protected.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Vijay. Really most insightful presentation, and thank you for answering the questions so candidly. For all that you that signed in, the recording of the webinar will be on our website. For questions that we didn't get to answer specifically, we will get back to you on. As I say, thank you very much for your time, and I hope this webinar has been valuable to you. There are more coming up, and please do join us for those. If you have any feedback or comments about today's session, or a session that you'd want to see us do in the future, please feel free to get in touch. So thank you again, Dr. Vijay, and all of you for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye.